Well, folks, it's time to open up your calendars and mark down the day because the MCU is officially dead.
You're dead. You are dead. Bop, boop, beep, bop, bop, boop, bop. You're dead.
We knew this day was fast approaching, but we were all wondering which film would actually do it. Which film would kill the behemoth that was the MCU? And in a way, it's quite prophetic that it was the Marvels, because it was Captain Marvel 1 that first raised some eyebrows amongst the fans, as the storytelling clearly took its first dip when it came to the MCU. And so now the Marvels has completely finished the job, as the opening weekend numbers are officially in, and it's worse than expected. The Marvels only brought in $48 million domestically in its opening weekend.
I don't know, does anyone want me to do it again?
Now, many were predicting around $60 million, which already sounded horrible, but my god, $48 million is just downright atrocious. But the death of the MCU isn't just the Marvel's fault, it was an accumulation of projects that brought down this universe that no one thought could die, and people thought would succeed forever. And it just goes to prove that you can never get too big to ignore the basics, which is exactly what Marvel did, and it's the exact reason the MCU failed in just 4 short years. Because they hit their peak in 2019, and they thought they could invest less time and less money into the creation of their projects and still reap the same benefits.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
Well, think again, Marvel, because fans aren't as dumb as you think, and they can sniff out lazy writing from a mile away, and that they did. Because it all began with Captain Marvel 1, which was a definite dip in quality from what fans came to expect from the MCU. Because for the first time, they ignored the entire hero's journey, which is a structure that has worked for centuries, and had worked for the last decade for Marvel, with heroes like Captain America and Iron Man, who followed the hero's journey to a T, and audiences loved them. Because the reason the hero's journey has been in place for centuries, if not thousands of years, is because the thing works. When it comes to telling a story, you have to develop the character in a way that people actually enjoy them and want to see how that character will continue to evolve. And the only way you can do that is by following the proven structure that works when developing a character. And yes, you can have some fun with it, you can toy with that structure in a way, but you have to follow that structure, otherwise the characters aren't going to be relatable and people are just going to turn off, which is exactly what the fans have done when it comes to the modern MCU. Because the most important element of the hero's journey is their imperfections and their setbacks, because that's what makes them both relatable and inspirational in the way that they grow and evolve into a better hero from those certain setbacks. And we saw it with Captain America, where he is frozen for decades and loses time with loved ones and suffers deep emotional pain that he has to try and deal with moving forward. And we can all relate to this, as we all wish we could get time back with our loved ones and our family. And he then has to come to grips with this pain and grow from it, and he also has to deal with this pain in every single movie moving forward, and he finds himself constantly going into conflict to avoid the pain, as he'd rather throw himself into work than deal with his own emotional pain and his own past history. That we can all understand, that we can all relate to, and we come to love Captain America for that, because he deals with the pain and he actually grows from it, and that's what makes him a hero that people love. And that right there is called character development, yet Marvel seem to find that unimportant now when it comes to their modern heroes, and let me explain. Because when you look at Captain Marvel, she is utterly perfect in every single way, and she's also unstoppable, which I like to call unrelatable. And let's be honest here, she's also just completely boring. So you'd think they'd find an emotional relationship arc that could actually develop the character and make them more relatable and make us understand them more, but apparently not. The only arc in Captain Marvel is that she realizes ultimate power is within her and doesn't come from her super superpowers, and that she's been perfect all along, and all she has to do is dig into her inner awesomeness to be better than everyone else. That is not something people can relate to, and that's definitely not a trait in a character that people actually enjoy, because we saw this when it came to Star Wars with Daisy Ridley's character, where she had the exact same character arc where all she had to do was dig into her inner awesomeness, and people hated it because it makes the character boring, and not only that, it makes them utterly insufferable to the point where we don't give a damn what happens to that character moving forward, because if they get written out of the MCU, people will be happy because people don't like them, because they're arrogant, egotistical, and suffer no setbacks, and the only issues in their story, the only issues in their life stem from everyone around them because they're so perfect and everyone else can't live up to the same perfection. No one's life is like that, so of course no one wants to see that in a character because there's nothing to understand there and there's nothing that we can empathize with. And this perfect character syndrome has been the absolute downfall for the MCU, because once again we saw it in a show like She-Hulk, which was ridiculed by fans everywhere, because that character was arguably the most insufferable character yet to come out of the MCU, and for good reason, because there's literally a scene where she tells Bruce Banner, who was literally abused as a kid, that he knows nothing about dealing with anger for these reasons.
Well, here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time. But when I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day, because if I don't, I will get called emotional or difficult, or I might just literally get murdered. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
And then we see it again in Ant-Man Quantumania, where Ant-Man's daughter is a complete egotistical know-it-all, and we're supposed to like this character when she tells her own father that he's a disgrace, even though he literally saved the world from complete doom, complete obliteration. But no, he's a disgrace of a father because he doesn't live up to her 16-year-old beliefs of what a good person should be. Now, of course, no one's going to like this character because they're 16 and act like they know everything and they go around bossing everyone, but the MCU thought that we would actually enjoy that character, and it just doesn't make sense. Because it's almost as if Marvel forgot what made their characters loved for a decade, and forgot that in order for fans to want to see your films, they have to be invested in your characters. But that's impossible when they are just so insufferable. No one wants to see the next movie, no one wants to see that character develop, yet Marvel go and greenlight a season 2 for She-Hulk, even though no one liked that series. And there were 2 newly introduced characters that were relatable and people actually enjoyed, one being Yelena in Black Widow, who suffers great family trauma and grows from that into becoming a good hero that people actually cared to see how she would develop in the MCU. Then we had Shang-Chi, who, while the movie wasn't perfect, was a character who had to face the demons of his past relationship with his father and overcome that. And we can all relate to those stories, we can all understand them, and that allows their character to develop and allows us to care where they're going to go in the future of the MCU, but they've just pissed those characters off and have chosen to focus on the very characters that people despise. Because at the end of the day, audiences go to a movie to be entertained, and when it comes to a superhero movie in particular, to also be inspired. And when you fail to do that, the audience members will go somewhere else, and now Marvel has officially realized that, but it is way too late. Because by the time they actually focus on characters that audiences care about, it's going to be way too late, because due to the writing process and the production process, we're not going to see those movies until 2027 at the earliest. And we've seen that with Spider-Man Spider-Man, where people loved Spider-Man No Way Home, at a time where people were already talking about superhero fatigue and how the MCU wasn't performing the way it used to. Spider-Man No Way Home came out and absolutely destroyed at the box office and got great reviews because people loved that character because they developed the character correctly. Yet after the great success that was Spider-Man No Way Home, they say nothing about the character of Spider-Man and now have only released that they're just starting to work on the script and that the movie will come out at the earliest in 2027, which is absolutely ridiculous. And so we have no choice but to realize that the MCU has taken its final breath, and we all know it. And hell, even their own cast members know it, with Brie Larson looking like she's going to leave the MCU, and Tom Holland clearly focusing on other things right now, and all power to them, because this ship has well and truly sunk. However, Robert Downey Jr. does look to be making a return to the MCU, but let's not act like this is out of a love for storytelling, and more so out of a love for money, because the paycheck for his return must be absolutely insane, because I do think the MCU know that their last and final hope at a Hail Mary victory will be through bringing back Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Scarlett Johansson. However, that seems more like a gimmick that may work for one movie or for one television series. However, it definitely won't work in order to revive the MCU and bring them back for another 10-year run, because I think their run has come to an end, and I think it's time for audiences to move on, because clearly they've had a good decade, but they've completely shot themselves in the foot, and it's time to focus on some other projects and some other franchises. So all in all, we knew the MCU would come to an end eventually, but I do think they rushed that end, and they made that end speed up through the weird choices that they made in character development and the movies that they chose to focus on. But what are your thoughts on the Marvels only making $48 million at the box office? Let me know down below in the comments, and if you liked the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all on my next video.